everyone, my name is Cheska. Today I'm here to talk about my experience importing plants from Indonesia through a new company called Plants Without Borders. Plants Without Borders is a really awesome company that connects United States buyers to growers of aroids and other tropical houseplants in different countries from around the world. They make the import process super simple, easy, and straightforward. And I had a really great experience with them. So I'm excited to share, kind of what the process was like for me. And then I'm also going to show you all the plants that I got and how they're doing 1 week after being imported and delivered to me. So I'll be also putting in some photos of what the plants look like on the day that they arrived, just so you can kind of see, what they looked like when they came versus how they look now 1 week later. I'll talk about kind of my acclimation process so far and what I plan on doing in the future. And I hope to maybe film a 1 month update video so that you all can see what the plants look like after 1 month under my care. After being imported, going through a plane and customs and all of that stuff. So yeah, first off, to talk about kind of the ordering process. So it started off with receiving a price list and catalog from the folks that I was ordering from in Indonesia. And I got to see, the list of plants. It was organized by genus. There was, information on the size of the leaf that I would be expecting if I were to order that plant. It had all the prices and photos. So I was able to come up with kind of a preliminary list of plants that I wanted. Throughout this process, after a couple days after receiving the catalog and price list, I also got to do a live virtual greenhouse tour with the person from Indonesia that I was purchasing from, Tito. And it was the time of my life. I got to interact with Tito. He showed me all the rows of his greenhouse, the greenhouse that he's building. I got to talk to him about his plants and, where they come from, how they grow, projects that he's working on. And yeah, it was just an amazing experience being able to connect with someone from the other side of the world, from a country that I know very little about. And we had this shared love of plants. And we were able to connect and talk about it, and it was so exciting, and it made me that much more excited about importing plants through Plants Without Borders. Once I sent over my finalized list of plants that I wanted, I was sent an invoice for $50. It was a deposit to make sure that the phytosanitary process can be taken care of and paid for. So I sent over the $50 deposit. And then from there, it took about 2.5 weeks to get the notification from DHL that my plants had been shipped. In those 2.5 weeks, I was in communication with Tito, the grower in Indonesia, and was given updates about what was going on with the phytosanitary process and just getting the plants ready for shipment into the United States from Indonesia. I received a text from DHL that my plants were on their way on a Monday morning, and I received the plants later that week on a Friday. So it only took 4 days for the plants to come from Indonesia to the United States safely at my doorstep, which I was incredibly impressed with. When the plants came, they were in a box, a cardboard box. I will insert a photo here so that you can see what that box looked like. Inside the cardboard box was a styrofoam box, and then in the styrofoam box were my plants. Each plant was wrapped up, both the foliage and then the roots. The foliage was wrapped in kind of like a gift tissue paper, but a little bit thicker than that. Not quite as thin as your standard gift tissue paper that you would stuff like in a paper bag when you're giving a gift. It was a little bit thicker than that. And when I unwrapped that paper, for some of my larger leafed plants that I ordered, there was also tissue paper in between the leaves, which I thought was really smart. Just in case, the leaves are getting moist during the transit process, there's a barrier so that the moisture doesn't get onto the other leaves, which is important for certain plants such as Antheriums, because if they stay wet, if the foliage stays wet for too long, you can get rot, you can get mold. So I thought it was very smart that they kind of put that barrier in between the leaves. The roots were first wrapped in a layer of saran wrap. I'll insert some photos here so that you can see what the root ball looked like when it was wrapped up. But it was wrapped in a very thick layer of lots of saran wrap. And then underneath the layer of saran wrap, there was a layer of tissue paper. and beneath the tissue paper, the roots were surrounded in sphagnum moss. The roots looked honestly really, really good. I can't think of one of the plants, I'm looking at them right now, can't think of one of the plants where I lost, you know, all of the roots. I want to say I was able to keep at least 95% of the roots that the plant came with up till now. So yeah, everything was packaged and shipped really, really nicely. There was kind of no issues with any of the plants that I got. There was one issue with one of them, which I will talk about when I show you each plant one by one. But overall, the plants were packaged very beautifully, and they came in perfect condition. Okay, so before I show you the plants, I do just want to add, you know, kind of what I did as soon as I got the plants. So after unwrapping them, I removed all the sphagnum moss from the root ball. What really helped me to get the sphagnum moss off was to hydrate the moss. So I ran the roots with the moss still on it through water, and that kind of helps to make the moss easier to pick off. If not, when it's still kind of a little dry, not to say that the moss was dry at all, it was still pretty damp. But when the moss was more hydrated, I was able to pick it off a lot easier, let the water run through it, and it just kind of fell off into the sink. So I did that, and then just kind of made sure that I washed the roots really well. I also washed the foliage. You know, you never know kind of what the plants might be bringing in, so I wanted to make sure that I gave them a really nice deep clean. Once all the plants were clean and all the sphagnum moss was removed, I then placed the plants into jars like so, and added a Super Thrive solution. Super Thrive is a really great product that helps with transplant shock. It's plant vitamins essentially, not really fertilizer. It's more plant food, plant vitamins, and it's very well known to support plants through acclimation or through transport. So I placed the plants in the jars of Super Thrive solution, and I put them into one of my greenhouse cabinets. I used a detolf with grow lights and a fan, and I kept those in there for a week. Today is Thursday, so it's technically 6 days. But yeah, I'm going to show you now kind of what each plant looks like. So you already saw the first one because I showed you the jar, but this is the first plant that I received, first out of 7. This is a Skindapsis trubii dark form, and it is really beautiful. It came with one leaf that has just some minor cosmetic damage, but 1 leaf, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is what the roots look like after soaking in Super Thrive for 1 week. I did lose a couple of roots when I was rinsing them off today, but it still looks like it has a pretty good root system. This is what the plant looked like when I received it. So as you can see, not much has changed. It still looks really, really good. I'm planning on putting this guy in some sphagnum moss until it can grow some more roots, and then I will plant it into soil. So yeah, Skindapsis trubii dark form. So the next plant that I got is a Syngonium. This is a Syngonium 3 Kings, also known as Syngonium Magic Marble or Syngonium Jade. It came with 5 leaves, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Oh, that one's so pretty. And it also has new growth, so you can see right there, there's new growth that's going to come out. It actually emerged more throughout the week, so it wasn't this much, you know, popped out when I received it in the mail. And once it was soaking in Super Thrive, it started pushing out a little bit more. I also just noticed that it grew a root in the week. Yeah, this was not there. So I'm very happy that it popped out a new root so quickly. Super Thrive is great. But yeah, the root system looks pretty good. I didn't lose very many roots when I rinsed them today, which is a really good sign. Not sure if I'm going to put this into moss or soil yet, like if I'm going to do moss first and then soil in a couple months, or if I'm just going to go straight to soil. Kind of still have to decide. It's like an okay root system, but I like to be very, very confident that the roots are good before placing it into soil. I think my only complaint about this specific plant was just because of the way it was packaged. It's a little wonky. Not the way that it was packaged, but the fact that it was sitting flat in a box for several days. The stems are kind of going all over the place, but I'm sure once I get it planted up, if I, maybe put it on a trellis or kind of tie the stems at the bottom like this, it'll get its act together. But other than that, it is a perfectly healthy, beautiful, and actively growing plant. So that is Syngonium 3 Kings. The next plant that I have to show you is this guy right here. This is an Amidrium medium silver. Here's what the roots are looking like. They look pretty good. I've never owned an Amidrium, so I don't know if it, it's characteristic to have kind of these thinner roots, but I still think they look great. This is the only plant that I had a real issue with. So as you can see right here, I've got a stem here, and unfortunately I did lose 2 leaves. So there was a leaf, emerging from this part here, and then another leaf coming out of that one. I did kind of lose a node as well, but the reason why I think that happened was because the plant was wrapped up to here in the kind of moist paper towel or moist toilet paper, tissue paper that was above the layer of sphagnum moss. So this unfortunately rotted. It came off the day that I received the plant. So I'm just left with this one leaf, but it is still a really beautiful and healthy looking leaf. The roots are looking also great. I'm definitely going to put this one into sphagnum moss first before placing it into soil, just because I'm a little wary because it did experience some rot. But nonetheless, still very, very beautiful, and I'm very happy to have this there. And I know these are also endemic to Indonesia, which makes it that much more exciting to have received it from Indonesia. Yeah, Amidrium medium silver. Okay, so we are now to some of my favorite plants that I got. Nothing wrong with the other ones, but these ones I am very, very excited about. These are the Antheriums that I got. So I got 4 different Antheriums. The first one that I'll show you is this beautiful guy right here. This is an Antherium Radicans. It is just so beautiful. I'd never seen an Antherium Radicans in person and very rarely see them offered online. And this is a very beautiful specimen. It's like a bouquet, but it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 leaves. This one does look a little bit newer. And the leaves, as you can see, are in absolutely perfect condition. Nothing wrong with them whatsoever. Here are the roots. So it doesn't have a super strongly developed root system. So I will probably be placing this guy in either leca or moss. But the roots are great. I mean, a good sign of Antherium roots is if they look like udon noodles, and these guys definitely do. It also has a new growth point, if you can see that there, which is also very exciting. So this one is probably my second favorite one that I got in the order. It is perfect. Look at those little red petioles, they're so cute. But yeah, Antherium Radicans looks so good. I'm very, very happy to have this. The plant that I have to show you is definitely one of the most exciting ones in the whole collection. This one, when I was unboxing it, my jaw dropped to the floor because I was just so surprised at how big it was. So here it is. Oh, it's bigger than my head. This is an Antherium Crystallinum dark form. This is the biggest leaf. It is freaking massive. You can see that there's a little bit of cosmetic damage right here, but other than that, it looks amazing. But wait, there's more. There's another pretty large leaf right here. And then I am unfortunately losing these 2 leaves right here. So this leaf is kind of yellowing slightly, but not so much as this guy right here. This one is this definitely happened under my care. I have a hypothesis about why this happened. This leaf was kind of dipping a little bit into the water. I don't know how I missed that, but I think that there were some roots coming out right here that fell off because they rotted off. So I think it must have gotten some rot while it was soaking in Super Thrive, but you know, these things are to be expected. The plant came in absolutely perfect condition when I got it, but of course sometimes import stress is not going to show up until a couple days later. I can pot this guy up right now and see import stress come up in a couple days. So I'm not tripping about it. I'm probably gonna lose this guy, but I still have some amazing massive leaves here. There's also a growth point right here. You can see it. Oh God, don't knock it off. And here are the roots. So when I was rinsing the roots today, I did lose some roots. I want to say I maybe lost 15, no, maybe like 10% of the roots. Not a lot at all, but they still look absolutely amazing. I've got some thick new roots coming in. So yeah, I mean, this is massive, and just so happy to have an Antherium this big in my collection. I've probably said this about every single plant so far, but this one is hands down my favorite. There's a reason why I saved it for last. This one brought literally a tear to my eye when I was unwrapping it because I was so surprised and in awe of it. So here it is. This is an Antherium Crystallinum X Magnificum. So it is a hybrid between Crystallinum and Magnificum. And it is huge. Like, this is definitely the biggest aeroid that I own now. And it's got 1, 2, 3 really big leaves. And I was so surprised to also see that it has an inflorescence. I'm not going to use the inflorescence because I don't know how to pollinate or breed antheriums or anything like that, and I'll probably cut it off soon, but just the fact that it came with this really speaks to the health of the plant when it was shipped to me, and it is clearly still maintaining that health. It is in perfect condition after 1 week. There are just a couple of just very minor cosmetic damages, like a tear right there, and it's kind of like, I don't know, ballooning outward, if that makes sense. I think just because of the way that it barely fit in my cabinet, to be completely honest. So I did this to the leaf, but I'll show you a picture here of what it looked like when it came in. And this is the incredible root system. As you can see, there's a ton of roots, and from when I received it to today, I think I've lost maybe a little under 10% of all of the roots, but what difference does that make, right? Because look at how many roots I've got here. I'm definitely gonna put this straight into soil, but it is looking amazing, very healthy. Again, now I have the biggest aeroid ever, and I'm just so happy to have it. Wouldn't have happened without Plants Without Borders. So again, thank you to them. I'm so happy. Thank you, Tito, for loving and caring this plant and sending it to me. So that's all. That's all I have to share today. Overall, I would rate my experience a 9.5 out of 10. I'm taking off 0.5 points just because of what happened to the Amidriam, but really just with how happy I am with all the other plants, I could care less about the other 2 Amidrium leaves that I lost. And it's a mistake that I think can be easily fixed. We let the grower know what happened. He's going to send us another plant to replace it, and you know, we know now to make sure not to wrap the tissue paper up so high. But other than that, you know, the plants came in absolutely perfect condition. They're still doing really well. I will let you know how they're doing in a month from now. But yeah, I'm just extremely just blown away by the whole experience, from the ease of ordering to the ability to have that live greenhouse tour with Tito in Indonesia, to the speed. You know, the minute that it shipped to the minute it arrived on my doorstep was only 4 days. So it was, yeah, just a really great experience. I already have a list of plants that I'm going to order again. And if you're thinking about ordering from Plants Without Borders, I highly recommend it. They're a great company connecting you to incredible small growers. And know that by supporting this company, you are supporting the livelihoods of these farmers, which means so much. And just knowing where the plants are coming from is also extremely powerful. So yeah, hope you enjoyed hearing about my experience, and I hope you place an order with Plants Without Borders soon.